Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Mark Messina, the CEO of Grey Group Tactical and the host of the Greyzone Podcast. I am here with the amazing Jordan Elizabeth, and she is a professional model as well as a ambassador for women's gun rights within the United States. So I wanted to get out here and highlight her and get some different points and positions that she has that we want to talk about. So, just so everybody's knowing, I am doing this podcast with the youngest again. So, right, if we do get a little bit of feedback or any of that stuff, he is here to say hello as well, too.
Beautiful.
So, but awesome, Jordan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And you want us to give a little bit of kind of backstory and intro for you that, you're going to be much better than me?
I don't know about that. But sure, yeah. So, hey, y'all, my name is Jordan Elizabeth. I have been a professional model for about 22 years. I have been an ambassador for Women's for Gun Rights, Women of NRA, A21, which is a human trafficking campaign. So I'm very passionate about eradicating any type of evilness that our country has a tendency to get caught up in. And then I also love being behind the camera. And I love shooting guns, which is the connection between Mark and I.
So, yeah, no, honestly, y'all, Jordan is an absolutely amazing human being. We met, gosh, it's been a while now, I guess.
Yeah,
it's
last
been,
year.
Yeah, I guess almost about a year. And she does so much amazing stuff. I'm always getting different random messages from her about like, hey, did you hear about this? Did you see this going on? Did you know what I mean? Like, she's always, she fills me in more than the news does. So, which is awesome. So, but she's, she's always on top of her game and some different things. So, and something that we talked about last time, obviously were some of the different actual things going on, with certain military members, right, that we discussed and we were talking about. Do you want to kind of fill us in on what the update of that stuff is?
Yes, I'd love to. So for those of you who are just tuning in, when Mark and I first spoke, there was someone that I looked up to and admired in the 2A community who got arrested for some pretty serious charges. One of them was child abuse, child rape, pornography, etc. I mean, the list went on. He was a retired special ops veteran and an ambassador to some well-known, I would say 2A companies. And when I called them out, almost all of them blocked me and did not hold any accountability whatsoever to the fact of what Brendan Souter did. So things went a little silent for a while. I had a friend do a little bit of an update. I found out that on the 31st of last month, he was released on bail. He was court ordered to wear an ankle monitor, though, which obviously means that he is a risk of fleeing. So, I mean, what more proof do we need that he is guilty of something? So I'm trying to dig a little bit deeper and get some intel on whether or not there's going to be a court date and what it looks like on that end. But I did recently see that his personal page is up and running again, and they are still hosting firearm matches, which I think is completely ludicrous. People know what this man has done. So the fact that they're acting oblivious to it just makes my blood boil, because that shows you the type of individuals that they are. But Mark, you and I kind of touched base on this briefly before we started. Just because you served in the military does not make you a good human. In fact, a lot of people that I've met, I come from a military family, I've worked with them. Typically, there is some type of mental insanity, or they struggle with depression and anxiety to begin with. So they join the military as a way to kind of, I would say, maybe release some of that anger or those tensions. And then if they do see war, they come back even worse. So it's just an endless, vicious cycle. And it makes the rest of the veterans look bad.
Yeah. So, and here's something for everybody to kind of think of, right? From a veteran perspective, is you got to understand the people that are actually going out there and doing that type of work, right? We're going into those senses and we're actually trained to a certain point to understand how to handle ourselves over there, right? And that training is serious, and everybody, whether, I don't want to call it brainwashing, right? But to a sense, it is, right? Because we're going through, simulation training over and over and over again to desensitize ourselves to certain attributes of combat. And that's we need that in order to successfully do our jobs overseas. So, when everybody idolizes people of that manner, you have to understand that these people are desensitized to so many of those things. Not saying what this dude did and that fact that he's a piece of shit, right? Like, because we don't mess with kids, right? Like, a man has to have a code, and harming women and children is part of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, when you do that, you cross that line and you're on the outside of it now.
Absolutely.
So people need to understand that, just because you see this person and he's done all these great things overseas, he's done all this other stuff, that doesn't mean that he's a good person or she, right? That doesn't mean their actions speak much louder than their words. And I think so many people sit there and focus on what they did compared to what they're doing.
I love that. Yes, absolutely. I would
And
agree.
that's a problem. You know what I mean? Like, if you're just, oh, well, I did this. Oh, well, I did this. Like, oh, I went and did this stuff down at Lancero School, and I got a Bronze Star in Afghanistan for this, and blah, blah. Like, dude, like, nobody gives a shit, right? Like, nobody cares.
They really don't.
I hate to break it to you. Nobody gives a shit. So, you know what I mean? Like, and stop living in the past of what you did and start living in your present of what you're doing. And take accountability for your actions, good or bad.
Yeah.
Right? Like, life has consequences for everything that we do, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing or anything else. It doesn't matter. But it has a consequence, and you have to accept those consequences on your daily basis. Right? Like, doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So
I agree with that 100%. So I think a prime example of that would be Tim Kennedy and everything that's going on with him and the backlash that companies are getting for working with them. You know, like, yes, he served, and I honestly can't even state what he's truly done because there's just new reports every day, but I can at least compartmentalize the false allegations and the true ones, and I focus on what he's done now. And yes, he's done a lot of good, but he's yet to truly fully take accountability for the stolen valor statement. So again, it's like you're idolizing these individuals for what they've done in the past. You nailed it. What are you doing right now?
So, and I'll be honest, right? Like, personally, I could care less about the stolen valor bullshit. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right? If you want to make up stories about what you did, nobody cares, dude. Nobody cares what any of us did over there. Guess what? It happened over there, and the only people that really know about it
Are you?
were there.
Yeah.
So, the only thing that actually kind of irked me from that entire story is that he was on a show, and I can't remember the show, and I can't quote it exactly, but he went through and he was talking about people that he had died that, had served with, right? And then he did a segment too where it was about, like, veteran suicide, and he doesn't even know the names, and he couldn't give those names. You know what I mean? He couldn't do it. Like, I can tell you every single person's name that I lost overseas, right? And I can go through and tell you every single person that has committed suicide after the fact, right? So if you're so wrapped up in your own shit that you're like, oh, I just don't even know, right? Like, and you're doing a podcast, you're doing something like that.
I know.
Take a second, right? Like, take a second and be like, you know what, man? Like, I'm in the moment right now. I need to slow down and take this second and be like, hold on, right? And if I'm messed up in that moment, pause that show, right? Like, this is you're talking about, and this is the people that you're honoring talking about.
Yep.
So honor them appropriately, right? Like, go in and say that, and I sat down and I was talking with Jeremiah a little bit ago as well too, and we were kind of going through all this as well. And he's like, I can tell you every single person. He was like, I can't tell you exactly how many have committed suicide up to this point and, like, do all this stuff. But after the show, he's like, dude, I'm going to go sit down and I'm going to go write all this out again. And I'm going to go do that because that's how we deal with that. But we're not going to dishonor those people and their sacrifices that they made, or sit there and be, soft about the entire situation, because at the end of the day, they died doing what they love.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they were there for. They're warriors. Do not dishonor the fact that the warrior class is out there, and that's what we do. And be proud of that.
Amen.
But just understand, that you're not a good person for doing it.
I know. Well, it reminds me of the last administration that we had in office. I mean, Biden couldn't even list the name of the military men and women that were murdered in Afghanistan. You know what I mean? So it's all about accountability, but also I think if you genuinely had a connection with the men that you served with, you would know their names. So that's why a lot of people, I think, tend to wonder the true intent behind Tim's discussion. Like, did he actually have open relationships with these people, or is he just doing it for clout? You know what I mean? It just seemed a little insensitive, especially when you know you're going on to the podcast to talk about these specific topics. Why would you not be prepared?
Yeah.
Genuine question.
Like, I mean, like, yeah, like you just like write something down. Like, that's okay.
It's 2 seconds.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, dude, like, here's my notes for today. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and we didn't even come into the show with a game plan.
We didn't.
But it's like, hey, let's, these are a couple topics that we want to hit. And I wrote my names down, and my things that I need to talk about, and making sure that I'm doing the right thing, because I hold myself accountable to that as well.
Absolutely.
Right. And if people have a problem with it, then get in front of it. So no, I agree. I think so. And that's kind of a problem set, right? And obviously, being the Greyzone Podcast, right, we talk about gray issues in America.
Yeah.
And there's more gray issues out there than I think there are black and white at this point.
Facts.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think that's something to highlight is accountability in our country. You know what I mean? Like, where is it, and where's it being held at? Right? It seems to be that there's a double standard for everything that we do, and we're not actually holding people accountable to their actions anymore, whether it's, criminally, whether it's, politically, whether it's everyday people. We think we can do and say whatever we want.
Yeah. And
get away with it. Like, what happened to the days when, like, if you cross the line, I'm going to hit you in your mouth? Like, when that stopped, like, everything really went to shit. Like, what's your take? Like, what are some of the things that you see?
Well, this is going to probably be a very controversial statement, but as someone who was very much so victimized and bullied throughout elementary school and high school, I think bullying needs to happen again, because it builds character and it prepares you for real life scenarios. I hate to say it, but one thing that I've noticed, as someone that's been in the industry for so long, we briefly touched base on this last time, but accountability and vetting who you want to represent your company, tends to be a gray area where, we see these TikTokers and these influencers getting hired by these awesome companies, right? And then there'll be some type of controversial statement released, or they'll dig up tweets from the past, like so-and-so said this. And then all of a sudden, the company that sought after this influencer so heavily, paying them so well, you don't hear anything. It's crickets, dead silence, right? Why does it take thousands of people commenting on a post asking a company, hey, when are you going to make a statement? Hey, when are you going to make a statement? It shouldn't take that long for a company to realize, all right, no, we may not have been part of what took place. Or yes, this person might have been 13 years old when they made the statement. However, this person does represent our company, so therefore we're going to take some type of accountability. We do not stand nor condone. However, we also give grace where grace is due. You don't see that anymore. You nailed it when you said everyone earlier, when you were talking about how, like, everyone's just entitled. People blame other people all the time. My grandma always told me, be careful when you point fingers, because you have 3 more pointing back at you. Yep. People don't want to step up. They don't take constructive criticism. It's someone else's fault, or, hey, people will just forget about it. Don't say anything. That is cowardly. That doesn't build character.
Yes. Right. So, and here's what I'll say, at least I'll put my CEO hat on really quick.
I love it.
Right. Like, you are responsible for everything that your company does or fails to do. No different than military leadership. And that's how I view it. Right. So I failed to get some orders out, and I had some chargebacks come through on the company. Most of y'all don't know that we had some issues in our building. Right. You don't know that, I lost $200,000 worth of equipment, right? Like, people don't know that, and that's okay. right? Because it's not your burden to bear, it's ours. And, sometimes pipes explode when it gets cold. And, fry really big, very expensive equipment. You have to figure it out. And then your insurance doesn't want to take care of it because, they said that it was your fault, even though it's,
Being
whatever.
an adult is so much fun, but being a CEO is even more fun.
It's terrible. I'll be honest with you, I absolutely despise it. You know what I mean? Like I hold the title and I say it proudly because I know how much work goes into it.
Yeah.
Right. And it is so much more than y'all think. And being and understanding what titles truly mean is something that a lot of people don't get either. And we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm so sick and tired of everybody saying that, oh, I'm the CEO of this company. Like, no, you're not, bro.
I know.
Like you have no idea what a CEO actually does. Right. Like if you're not raising capital every day, you're not a fucking CEO. Sorry.
Perfectly said. Let's go, Mark.
Right? Like that's how it goes. So yeah, everybody knows I'm not filtered. So
that's why I
I'm
love
one
you.
of
This is
the
why we're
grungiest
friends.
CEOs you're gonna meet. It's gonna be great.
Those are my favorite.
But we get shit done. So, but back to kind of where we were at with that is everything your company does and fails to do, you take responsibility for it. Right? If you choose somebody to represent your brand, they are a direct representation of you. So you need to choose your people carefully, right? You need to have a business intel section, right, that runs business intelligence. So if you're not doing that, you're failing. Sorry. Welcome to the real world of actual CEOs.
Yeah.
Right? I have somebody that is specifically dedicated to doing that. That is what they do. That is their entire job. They do data dumps on our competitors, on up and pending contracts, on who all the CORs are, on who these influencers are, what they're posting, what they're doing. Like they're running their AI algorithms against everything that goes on the internet. And we have to protect the company and protect the brand, right? And if you're not doing that, you're not doing your job.
No.
And if you're not taking your company to the next level at every step of the way, like I'm getting out of the e-commerce market. I don't want to be in it. Right? Like, yeah, we started it that way because everybody, guess what? We were self-funded when we started. You know whose money it was on the line? It was mine.
Yep.
Right? And that's how you start a company. And then you grow it to a certain point. And then, okay, now we can start looking at acquisitions. Now we can start looking at mergers. Now we can start looking at raising capital to get certain things done. You know what I mean? Like, that's what that means to hold that title.
Yeah.
But so many people aren't willing to take that accountability. And they've made it so far, but they're not personally vested to it enough to where they just stay quiet.
Nailed it.
Right.
I think the difference between you and so many other CEOs is that, like you said, if they truly are not invested and probably truly having some sort of relationship with the company and see what's going on behind the scenes every day, they're so desensitized. So they don't necessarily care because it doesn't affect them personally. But when it's your own money that you're investing into a company and you're constantly, like yourself, seeing what's going on behind the scenes and having to fix issues and vet issues and prioritize what's going to, happen and what's not going to happen, where's our money going to go, you do feel some sense of a burden, I would say, or some type of responsibility when issues like that happen. So,
yeah.
And I hate when people use excuses. For instance, Alex Earl, huge, you know who she is, the TikTok star? Love her to death. Okay. Someone found some old tweets that she had made when she was a little kid. I get it. Again, we talked about grace, give grace where grace is due. And I don't think she meant it in the way that the media was trying to twist and manipulate.
Yep.
But what I appreciated about her is she made a post and took full responsibility immediately. She did not wait for people to say something. She didn't wait for companies to reach out to her. But also, my thing is, when you apply for a job, there's usually a few questions that they ask you. One, have you ever been arrested?
Yep.
If so, what? I almost feel like that should apply to an ambassador program. If there's something that you think you need to let me know. That way I'm not taken off guard if something comes out to the public, and I can decide here and now if I want to still invest in you. You know what I mean?
Transparency goes so far.
But
right?
People just don't want to be honest. And I get we all have skeletons in our closet.
Yep.
But if you start off with the truth, it tends to be in your favor more than trying to hide it or lie.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies try and cover things up and, people will just forget about it. No,
they
especially
won't.
if it's like, for instance, I was so upset with these 2A companies that continue to defend Brendan because I was like, I'm giving you money and now I know the type of person that you are, which pisses me off because I'm investing my hard-earned cash into your company and you just showed me your ass. So it pisses me off too as a buyer. So.
Yep. And that's something to really dive into too, right? Like when you're creating these companies, right? And this is obviously another form of this podcast as well too, is about understanding business and showing what true business leadership looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. I get to hit all my topics today.
I know.
Right. Awesome. Like, so, but, no, right. Like you got to look at this when you're forming a company too, and people need to understand like the first rules of business in forming a company, right? Is one, do you want to be self-employed or do you want to own a company? There's a difference.
Huge difference.
Okay. And most people don't realize or understand that. And it doesn't matter if you want to own a company or be self-employed. The first 2 years, you're self-employed. Sorry. And you're probably not paying yourself. So like get used to it. I still have yet to pay myself out of Grey Group. So, you know what I mean? Like guess what? Like, but I'm personally vested and it'll pay off eventually.
It will.
You know what I mean? And it will. If you put the work in, it will eventually pay off. And I can say that proudly. Like I don't pay myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like not yet. And I don't pay myself out of my nonprofit work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like
that's another topic.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get into that shit. We'll get into that one. So, because I got some people to call out in there.
Opened up a can of worms.
Yes, you just did. Oh, I guess I did. I don't know. Maybe it's something I really want to.
We did together. Team effort.
I think I got some stuff on my chest I got to get out. But anyway, like back
spiked,
to.
But cheers.
Yeah, right. Dude, it's my Disney cup. I love this cup. It's awesome. Look at it.
I should have brought an actual mug, but I was trying to be classy.
Yeah. So, no, the some of the main points though with starting out these businesses is you guys actually have to lay out a legitimate idea, not a business plan, right? But you need to lay out the idea, and then you need to set the ethics off the bat, right? Put your hard left and right limits into the sand before you start doing that. If people are working outside of those left and right limits, they don't belong. And when you're bringing your team into that company, like the best advice I can give to it is you don't hire a person for a job. You hire a member of your team that you know is going to be effective, and then you create the job around them that they're going to best flourish in.
I love that.
Right? Because there's always work to do, right? There's always work to get done. There's always more we can do. What's the biggest thing about a company? It's marketing, right? Like, if you've got somebody that's super socially awkward and can't be seen in public, why would you put them into, oh, we've got this, digital marketing position and we've got these things, but yet they struggle with aspects of it, right? Don't get me wrong, develop them, make them better. But that's probably not the position that they need to be in. They need to be doing something that's exactly, and if you can have those real transparent conversations with people up front, right? Whether it's a brand ambassador, whether it's, your marketing team, whether it's your finance team, whether it doesn't matter, right? Like you've got to set those expectations out front and tell them out front what your left and right limits are. If you cross this line, you're fucking fired. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I can promise you, I've fired a lot of people, right?
Mark, but why are so many people afraid to do that these days?
Because everything's so desensitized.
I think a lot of it was probably cancel culture too, but I think that's going to change with this new administration. People are fed up. Because to kind of touch base on something, I just want to kind of pivot off of it.
Yeah.
You don't hire someone because of their color or their gender. You hire someone because of their qualifications of what they bring to the table. And I love the fact that you said you don't hire someone for the job. What you do is you get to know them, their strengths, and then you find a position that fits those strengths. And it's okay to have a constructive criticism. Hey, these are your strong points. These are not. So we're going to move you from this position to this position. I'm not getting rid of you. I want to help build character and I want to help grow these strengths. So we're not going to fire you, but we're just going to move you over here. I would much rather have my boss have a transparent discussion with me about that. Because one, that's also getting you ready for the real world too. Because I mean, even in your personal relationships, you've got to be able to communicate and articulate that type. So if you can't even do it at your job, I can only imagine what your personal life is like.
And then too, right? It's creating a culture in your work environment, your business, right?
Yes.
I make mistakes every day. I need somebody to call me on my shit sometimes.
Yes.
I'm looking to, like, I get tunnel visioned on certain things, right? And obviously as a CEO, you can't be tunnel vision.
No.
You know what I mean? And I tunnel vision on certain projects. And I'm like, guys, we've got to focus on this. Like, this is, my priority and my prerogative. And then, I have somebody like, hey, Mark, I think you need to take a step back from that because you don't need to be working on that. Right? Like, we can take care of this and we can get it over there. But again, right, I'm personally vested to it. I want to make sure that it's done. But I have to recognize that as well, too, that I can't micromanage my people that I put in these places.
Right.
And you know what I mean? And that's something that in my team that I've built, you know what I mean? Like, if we're not questioning each other every day and checking each other and getting those things done, we're just running circles on it. Yeah. It's like having a meeting with no outcomes.
Oh yeah, you're just stagnant. And if you build a team that truly wants to build the company. So like, this is what I always tell people when I'm going through a job interview. If you hire me, in my mind, this is my company too. That is how much I'm going to invest my time and my work ethic into this company. I am part of the family now. I will treat this as if it is my business. The amount of people that love that when I say that in my interview, because that's what they want. They want to invest in people that invest in their company. I want to work with creative people that are going to be like, hey, Jordan, let's try this. Maybe let's try that. I'm not going to get upset about it. I'm like, wow, thank you for caring because you want this company to work out as well. Thank you.
Right.
I don't want to remain stagnant.
No. And you need to provide that growth for people as well, too. Right. Like, I don't have an issue handing out large percentages and handing out, whether it's bonuses or hell, I don't mind handing out equity in my company.
Some sort of incentive. Right? Yes.
Because, I've got somebody who's like, Mark, like, I want to grow this. I want equity. Okay. I'm going to give you 3%. This is your metric you have to meet to get that 3%. Right. And, after a couple of years at 3%, we can look at, increasing that and doing more. Right. And I don't want to buy in for it. I don't care about that.
Right.
I want the work. Right. I want it to grow. I want an outcome to come of it because if the company is successful, we're successful.
Yep.
And so many people just don't get that.
They don't.
Like, they don't get it.
That's why there's so many failed companies and entrepreneurs and CEOs.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, let's talk about that. Can you give me your definition of what a CEO is?
Well, do you want like my politically correct version or do you want me to just state like
No, I want the Jordan version.
Okay, so to me, a CEO is not the boss, first off. Actually, I feel like more presidents are the boss. So the CEO to me is someone that invested in building, literally maybe purchasing the building and has an idea. The president to me is actually the one that is behind the scenes, typically that I will say it with my experience. But I would say to me, a CEO is more of a banker of a company, someone that you go to for funding. And that's it.
Correct. 100% correct.
I mean,
because,
I know, but...
yeah, like, obviously, I know.
I know.
Like, look at me and my fancy college degrees.
Hey, listen, common sense ain't common no more.
Yeah, facts. So, and no, you're 100% right? Yeah. Like, everybody is like, oh, I'm the CEO of this, I'm the CEO of that. And, you see it on LinkedIn all the time, right? Like, and LinkedIn's honestly, I love LinkedIn because it shows a lot, but... it's so fake and made up. It's ridiculous, right? And this is something I can actually talk about in like transition in the military. And I'm gonna give you all a little insight on this too. Titles mean something in the civilian world, just like they do in the military world, right? Just because I was put into the position of an operations sergeant major doesn't mean I'm a sergeant major. I was never a sergeant major, right? However, I held that position for 2 years. Did I do the job of the ops sergeant major? Yes, I did. And I held that. That's fine. But I don't get to put on my resume that I'm an operations sergeant major, right? Because I never actually achieved that rank. So same thing in the civilian world when you go to transition out of the military, right? As I was going through their, classes of how to write my resume and do all this other crap, and I'm sitting here just laughing at it, they literally told us in these classes to put on there like, oh, you're a project manager, you're this, you're that. Like, let me let y'all in on a little, I couldn't even make this up if I tried. So a PMP is a certification. You actually go to school for that. There's a course to be a PMP certification. And in order to get into that course, you have to meet certain prerequisites, i.e. so many hours in project management and, running like Lean Six Sigma and like doing all these things. Don't get me wrong, right? Lean Six Sigma is based directly off of like G-Army. It's very similar. It is. It's very similar. You can very easily go in and do it. But unless you go in and physically do the courses, you're not PMP certified. You can't say that you're a project manager. You can't say those certain things. Now, when it comes to being a CEO of a company, if you haven't raised capital for your company, you're not a CEO, right? And we're not talking about
or something in the background, like
more cowbell. No.
Ding, ding, ding.
So yeah, like it's, and if you're not driving that company to go public, and you don't understand the steps that it takes to get that company to go public, you're not a CEO.
It's the truth.
If you're working in your business and on your business, you're not a CEO.
You just pissed off so many people.
I just pissed off so many people.
I love it. The truth needs to be told, though.
I do not work in my business. I don't know how to sew, right? I can fix a sew. Don't get me wrong. I've been back there and everybody freaked out because I've got this really, really big sewing machine, right? And like, it's so funny because everybody's like, I'm not allowed to touch them. Like, none of my seamstresses allow me to touch the sewing machines.
Mark,
because I break
off
them.
The sewing machine.
Yeah, no, yeah. They're like, did you touch my machine? I'm like, oh, I didn't touch it. Like,
you're like, no.
Yeah, like, and they're like, no, you touched it. I know you touched it. You're the only one who come back here and touch my. I'm like, I didn't touch your machine. But anyway, right? Like, I've had to fix them before, right? Like, we broke a sewing machine, and it's a very critical machine, right? Like, and it's huge. It's very expensive. It's like $7,000 or $9,000 sewing machine.
Oh, dear Jesus.
Yeah, right. Like a sewing machine, that's that expensive. It's ridiculous. But you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things. And I'm like, all right, I can figure this out, right? Like I can MacGyver anything. You know what I mean? I took the thing completely apart, right? Like I actually ripped the entire sewing machine apart, and then I put it back together and I fixed it. I found the broken parts and I fixed it, right? Like, but that was like an immediate thing, right? And that's because I'm personally vested in it. But my day-to-day life is not involved in manufacturing or making goods. It's meeting compliance, right? It's getting money, and it's obtaining contracts.
Keyword.
That's
getting money.
Money, right? What's the number one rule of business? Where's the money? I hate to break it to everybody. Businesses are about one thing, and it's about making money, not spending money. So many businesses come into the play like, oh, I'm going to get this, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get that, I'm going to get this. And they need these fancy offices, and they need all this other crazy stuff. Well, did you ask yourself that first question of where's the money? What are you making right now that's 5 to 1 to cover that? any expense that I use, my metric is 5-1, right? That's what's owed. If I hire somebody, how am I going to make 5-1? What's the output? What's the throughput? If I'm going to buy a new piece of equipment, what's my 5-1? Right? How quick am I going to be able to pay that machine off? And then how much money am I going to make off that machine? And then how much money am I going to have to pay to operate it? And then fix it when we break it. Because you're going to break shit all the time.
Oh, 1,000%, especially in the beginning, the first stages. But I think that's why so many businesses fail in the beginning, because what they do is they just accrue debt, but they're not making money. So if you're investing, you better be making that back.
Right.
But they're not.
And everybody's so quick to jump at a business loan and to go jump at all these things. And go raise money when you have a business loan out. Go do it. Go try. Let me let y'all in on a little insight and why I despise being a CEO, which I gotta fix that. Those things are driving me nuts.
You're like, let's fix the hair and the headphones are coming off. Let's go.
Right? Like, and here's what it is. Raising capital is, I want you to just go scoop up a handful of glass, put it in your mouth and chew. That's what raising capital is equivalent to for me. Right? Like, and anybody that's done it knows they're like, oh my God, that's such a great analogy. Anybody that hasn't done it is like, it can't be that bad.
It is.
You know, like, no, it is. It absolutely is. And go deal with Deloitte. Like, go deal with Deloitte and let me know how it all goes. Right? Like, you want to talk about some fine-tooth combs going through your stuff? Every penny. They track your bathroom breaks.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
How long did you eat?
No, and I'm dead serious. Like, they track it down to the minute of what I do. Like, I have to write a justification a letter. Oh, no, every podcast I do. Every minute of my day is accounted for. Because at the end of the day, as a business owner, or as a president, or as a CEO, whatever you want to call yourself, right? You have a dollar value.
Yeah.
Right? Mine is $547. That's my dollar value for what my hourly rate is. That's a lot of money. So if I'm not doing 5-1 at my value, I'm wasting my time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the equivalent is.
Yeah.
And you have to do that for every person that you bring in and every expense you make. So for you CEOs out there, right? Because there's so many that, you know, hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm the CEO of so-and-so with my garage operation.
Oh, geez.
Right?
Yeah.
Cool, bro. Honestly, I wish I was still in the garage. It was so easy.
You'd make more money doing that probably right away. You would have been able to pay yourself back a long time ago.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
But, again, my goal, a public company.
And they're different dreams, and we get that. It's just...
Being self-employed is more profitable than owning a company in the short term.
Yeah.
In the long term, it's better to own a company. So, but, like, I'll get off my high horse on all you fake-ass CEOs. But, like, again, man, like, if you're not raising capital and you're not talking millions of dollars, you're not a CEO, man. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. You know, and I get a lot of surprise looks when I walk into some of these, you know, firms, and I walk into, you know, some of these meetings, and they're like, who is this long-haired, bearded, tattooed dude coming in here? Right? Like, and I'm like, hey, like, you know, and if we want to go and break down, you know, strategic planning and operational understandings, I've got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You want to break down our financial metrics?
Mm-hmm.
I've got it. I know it all. I memorize it all. I'm really weird like that. I read something and I
No, you're not weird. You're a CEO.
Like, right? Like, but so many people need to understand that. So,
but they won't, because it's an ego thing.
It's an ego thing. Oh, I need the nice office. I need this. You know what I like doing from? I like working from home. You know, I actually get to hang out with my youngin. And I put up an office downstairs.
But it's a facade.
You know what I mean?
They want people to think that they look successful.
Correct.
But some of the richest people in the world you would never know. I mean, look at Elon Musk, for goodness
Yeah.
sakes. Okay. These billionaires look homeless, and they have money because they are good with money and they know where to invest. where this new generation of CEOs and small business owners, social media is to blame for a lot of this. It's
100%.
brainwashing. It's this get fast, get rich fast type mentality. No, it takes time. It's like a sport. You look at these athletes, they've been doing it their entire life. Most of them don't even make it to the Olympics, and they have trained and done everything their entire life. Owning a business and being a CEO is similar to me. The closest analogy I can get is to training for the Olympics. It's very rare that you truly get where you need to go without putting in all the hard work. So when I see these like CEOs or these business owners getting into debt, getting into bed with bankers, people don't realize, oh, well, I have a loan. They want you to fail. They make money off of you failing. They actually make less money off of your success.
Correct.
People don't realize that. So you're getting yourself into debt for no reason.
I'll throw another little insight out there for everybody, right? So patents are incredibly important, especially in the manufacturing world, right? We have a ton of them, right? They're expensive. They cost around 20, 30 grand a rip.
I was looking into getting one for an idea, and I was like,
well, you come talk to me offline.
I will.
And I have an expedited way to do that.
Okay.
But, you know what I mean? Like, patents are very expensive. If you take a business loan for your business and your patent is under your business, right? Meaning you created the business and then you patented your product, that's fine. If you fault on that, that bank can now acquire your patent,
own it,
right? And then they can license that to your competitors to do it. And if you don't think that those VC firms aren't tied into every one of your competitors before you have that conversation, you're wrong.
Yep.
Business intelligence, right? If I'm looking at doing an acquisition or a merger or doing something like that, I know everybody's competition, because if something goes sideways and I need to ramp up an escalation or do something like that, I know where the pain points are.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds horrible. It sounds mean, but welcome to the real world.
To me, it doesn't, but I have no soul, so.
Yeah, well, welcome to the club. So, is it because of the redhead thing?
It is.
All right, yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know why, but apparently it's a thing. So, and my favorite color is black, and they think it's depressing. I'm like, so like on Valentine's Day, I wore black. And people are like, are you mourning? I'm like, no, like I'm celebrating. I'm wearing my favorite color.
Right.
So it doesn't help I'm a redhead and I'm completely tatted and covered. So the struggle. I look like a criminal or a prostitute. I don't know.
No, I look like a criminal or a hippie. It's one of the two.
I was going to say ISIS, but it's fine.
ISIS, yeah, it makes sense. I'm working on it,
But I like criminals. Just not the ones that are coming into our country and taking.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
That's a whole other topic.
So, all right, let's open a can of worms. You ready? It's about to get real. Yep. Stretched out.
Let's do it.
Hit me with some nonprofit stuff here, right? I know you're involved, with a lot of different things and, obviously a lot of advocacy for stuff as well, too.
Yeah.
And obviously, I am quite involved in the nonprofit space as well.
Yes, you are. You do a lot that people I don't think they're aware of it.
So, and here's what I'll tell you about why I got into the nonprofit space, right? And then we can kind of dive into why you're in the nonprofit space, and then let's dive into all these fake ass nonprofits. So, yeah, we're just opening up cans of worms all day.
Yeah.
So for me, right, everybody knows I was medically retired out of the military, and my career was cut short. It was. And obviously, like that's to my own fault. Again, just like we talked about previously, right? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? There's laws about that. They made them up. But there's consequences to it. I accept those consequences. I lost my career for it, and I was medically retired. With that being said, in that transition point for me, I had to look back on the last 15 years of my life and truly accept and understand that did anything I do actually have an outcome or matter? Right? I spent years of my life overseas. I went and did things, and there's a cost to that, and that's okay. But was there ever an actual outcome that mattered? Did it change anything? And for me, I came to the realization and answer of no, it didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't mean a thing. And not saying that I wasted those years of my life or that I did that, because I am the man I am today because of it. But I don't see the benefit of what we did or how we helped or any of it. I don't see it. I think it's all made up. And I think it was all just another agenda for something else. Sorry. Right? To all of you, like barrel-chested freedom fighters out there that, you're here for God and country and everything else. So that's not what I got. So with that, though, I transitioned a lot of that to my nonprofit space. Right? And I want outcomes. I'm a very outcome-based person. Right? I want results. I want outcomes. Meet your metrics. Right? I'm the same way in the nonprofit space is, what are we actually doing? Right? And I have a lot of personal angst and issues with nonprofits who are about raising awareness.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if you're just raising awareness, you're not doing anything, but you're collecting money to raise this awareness. But you're not providing a solution.
Now, where's the money going?
Anything. Right? And where's that money going to? Now, double-sided coin on this of paying people in nonprofits as a business and as a job. End of the day, a nonprofit is a job. It is. It is a business. Right? Again, I have to track every minute of my life because my life is not my own because I'm a fucking CEO and it's terrible. But, you know what I mean? Like, when it comes to stuff like that, you have to track your hours and you have to, do certain things, and you have to understand where it goes. I don't have an issue with paying people working in a nonprofit if it's 5-1 and the fucking results are there. But when the nonprofit isn't getting any results outside of a marketing campaign, and the nonprofit is, so embedded with so many other companies that they're just raising money and we don't know where that money's going to.
Yep.
And you're paying executives, high 6-figure to 8-figure salaries. You're in the fucking wrong.
Something's not right.
Right? Yeah, don't get me wrong. You got to pay talent. You want somebody who can run a major nonprofit, they're going to be expensive.
Yeah.
They're going to be. And you have to pay for that time. Right? If they just went from running, a $200 million company annually, you got to pay for them to be there to do that and to take that nonprofit to the next level. 100%. But understand it's a nonprofit and you should expect a quarter of what your salary was. You can make money doing the right thing.
1,000%.
It's just harder.
But I think that things that are worth investing in life and that are good are usually harder. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So
Exactly. So, but that's my kind of realization and recognition of why I got into the nonprofit space. What was yours?
Gosh, I don't know if we have enough time for that. Mine was very personal too, to be honest. It's not my story to tell, but my mom had a very rough upbringing, and my mom was a single mom most of my life, and we were in some very abusive situations at times. There was a time that we were homeless, and my mom still worked her ass off, became successful, has every degree you can name of. But going through those trials and tribulations, my mom became, she's always been a compassionate individual, but I saw the lack, specifically, I'm going to be completely honest, specifically what it was for me was come from a Christian household, and I saw how much my mom and I suffered and how much the church did absolutely nothing for us. But then I see my mom, who has nothing, giving literally the shirt off her back and investing time, volunteering at soup kitchens, helping our wounded veterans, being an advocate for human trafficking victims, speaking to these people. So that was instilled in my brain at a young age. And I remember when I got old enough, I kind of looked around like, okay, the church is still not really doing anything. We're tithing, we're doing this. Where's our money going? And it was so frustrating for me because I truly feel that God put me on this earth to have a servant's heart and to help people. I love helping people. I love people. I cannot speak today. I love making people feel loved and that they have purpose. And typically I have a tendency to attract very broken individuals, whether they're veterans, whether they are victims of sex trafficking, whether they have addictions, whether they're in domestic violence situation. These people, I literally could be at Walmart. Actually happened to me last weekend. Was at Walmart, met this sweet girl. We were talking, abusive relationship. So that's kind of how I got into nonprofit work, was because of my mom and our life scenarios. And I just felt like I needed to some way give back. My issue was these organizations that I was volunteering my time for, like you stated, what were they doing? Where was the money going? They weren't making enough money to get supplies, yet the owner or the person that started it had a brand new vehicle almost every 6 months. They were going on vacations, yet we were struggling to get funding and set up events to get funding for housing, for food, for counseling for these people. It made no sense to me. And then politics, the corruption that we see in DC, it pissed me off. I come from a military background, and there should be no reason why our veterans, unless they chose, because I want to touch base on something real quick. There, believe it or not, are a lot of homeless veterans that choose to live that way. They do.
Yep. 100%.
Because there are. Leave those ones alone. But the ones that truly the VA is not helping, there's no outlet. It was pissing me off that we have all these organizations that are quote unquote nonprofit, yet I still see people like my dad and my uncle who are on the streets that are not getting help, who have family members that they left behind because they feel so disgusted with themselves. There's no outlet. And yet we're voting for people and we're putting people in power in these positions that have the resources to do something about it, and they're not. It pisses me off. But we see this constantly. So that's kind of me rambling, but that's how I got into nonprofit work, was just personal situations and my faith, which is so sad. But I feel like you do see it a lot in our church, and that's why so many people leave the church.
Yep.
Because of the hypocrisy.
I agree. It's why I left the church.
And that's why I push now. It is sad because fundamentally, if you read the Bible, scripture says you are supposed to gather, be around like-minded people, worship.
Yep.
In the end times, the church will go stronger, but smaller. And so it breaks my heart because we're called to gather. But at the same time, we talked about accountability earlier.
Yep.
There's a reason why there's supposed to be specific elders in a church, and we just hire anyone to fill the position. That doesn't mean that they're qualified. Joel Osteen, prime example, can't stand the man. Cannot stand the man. If you look into him, he is a dirtbag. And what he does with his money, pays for his mansions, vacations, his helicopter, you name it. Do you remember when the hurricane and flooding hit in Texas and he did not allow people to go to his church?
Yeah.
To take refuge.
Yeah, closed the doors. Yeah, closed doors. And that's
Sorry
a whole
for my
nother
rant.
No, I love your rants. And that's a whole nother topic too, right? Is like being a good human.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and just being a good human and accepting like what humanity actually has to offer. And so many people aren't going to do it. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, like I'm obviously I'm a God-fearing man, and I'm very faith-based.
Yeah.
But you don't have to go into the hypocrisy and wade through it to try to ground yourself in what being a good human is. And that was a realization that I took from it.
Yeah.
And I stepped away from it. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a good human and you try to put more good out into the world than you take away, we can be on that level together. You know what I mean? And that's something that like I immediately hit off with you about it, right? Like, because we're just both like, like, absolutely not. Fuck that dude.
Yeah.
Like, we need to go look at this. We need to,
something's not adding up here.
Yeah. Like, and we, I don't know, we hit on a lot of different things, but like, there's so much out there. And honestly, that was one of the big pushes of why I got into QRF Up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And obviously you've heard me talk about QRF Up a ton.
Absolutely.
Because I believe it. Right. Nobody in QRF Up gets paid. Not a single person. Right. Eventually we're going to have to start paying people, right, just for their time. We need to hire therapists. And, people want to know where the money's at. a therapist that's licensed, right? If I only get 40 of them, right? I'm not going to do math in public. I'm going to pull a calculator up. Hold on. Because that shit's dangerous.
I loved science, math, and I
Yeah, right?
I'm good at it. I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I can count.
Math in public's really dangerous. Yeah. So let's say I hire 40 therapists, right? And that's going to help us cover down. Now, obviously, we're going to need a lot more than 40 therapists as we go nationwide. Let's say I hire 40, right? And that covers us for the time being. A median salary for a licensed therapist is $120,000. That's on the low side, honestly. Really, it's probably around 140. Keep in mind,
And
these
that's
people
for
are
a
doctors.
good one, too.
Yeah. Like, these people are doctors, all right? I hire 40 of them. That's $4.8 million a year.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think 40 is going to be enough? No. You know what I mean? We use a bunch of other different things too. We use a lot of tools. We partner with education, centers and facilities that students that are going through their PhD programs, get their clinical hours and do those sort of things. But, you know what I mean? Like, the reason I love it, though, and why I'm so invested into QRF Up is we're not raising awareness to shit. We know what the suicide rate is.
Yes.
And guess what? It's not 22 a day. All right?
It's more.
Like, it's not. It's way more. It's in the 30s, almost 40 a day range. Right? Like, 1% of this country is veterans and first responders. Less than 1%.
And it's more men that commit suicide too. I hate, that's another topic with feminism, but it's like more men are taking their lives. More women attempt it, but more men are successful. What does that say about our country?
Exactly. But think about this, though. You ready? 1% is the population. They make up 33% of the suicide rate nationally.
I know.
That's a problem. Like, that is a serious problem.
And people talk about it and they talk about it. But I'm going to be honest, I have not seen any change with these big name nonprofits.
Nope.
Not
Nothing.
one thing. And if you
what
actually
are they doing?
thank you. It's like they're just treading water. And if you were to actually speak to a veteran that they've worked with, I don't see progress.
Nope.
In their mental state.
Nope.
In their relationships at home. So what are you doing?
Yeah. So, and here's what I can say, right? And QRF Up is not a pre-care, post-care nonprofit. And as the vice president of it, I will be straight and transparent. We're not. We're not in pre-care. We're not in post-care. We have built our partnerships around that so that way we can get you into other things. But that's not what we focus on. We focus on the immediate crisis at hand. It's an application on your phone. You push that red hot button, you immediately talk to a therapist.
I love
not
that.
A peer-to-peer support responder, not any of that. You talk to a therapist licensed in your state. Right? Immediately. It's a direct connection. There's no wait time. There's no any of that. Right? And if we need more therapists in that area, we get more therapists in that area. We figure it out. Right? And then if that therapist can't de-escalate the call, then we send out a peer-to-peer support responder, and they will physically come to your location. Right? 60% of our calls get de-escalated by that therapist. Another 24 to 25% of our calls get de-escalated by our response teams going out there. 7 to 9%. 7% is for hospitalization. 9% is for police involvement. Right?
You're not just talking the talk, you're doing something about it.
We have an 84% stability rate.
That's amazing. I don't think people understand how big that is.
No, it's huge. And we're going nationwide, right? We're operating in 11 states right now, and we're going nationwide. We are doing something that nobody else has done before. 988 came close, right? And I talked to Kristen Christie, right? Like, we're working on it right now. I don't want to give too much, but we're working on it right now that she's going to be our guest speaker at our gala.
I love that.
You know what I mean? Like, and she is an amazing woman with, my goodness, her story. It had me just broke after, talking with her and meeting her. Like, and I'll tell you what, like, they came so close to it, but they're overwhelmed and they need help. They need help. They're overwhelmed. They're getting 400,000 calls a month. But QRF Up is niched. We only support veterans and first responders and their families, right? But understand, too, there's 19.6 million veterans in our country. There's another 5 million first responders. And in active duty, I think there's like 2.3 million that are, National Guard, active duty, and such forth. So, but everybody, dances around this. Oh, the VA's there. They do this, they do
The
that.
VA is trash. I'm going to throw that out there. The VA does absolutely nothing. Anyone that defends the VA is an elitist, and they are getting paid so they can shut the fuck up. Excuse my French. VA is trash. My dad, my grandpa, one of my best friends. One of my best friends was blown up. It took him almost 5 years to see anything to help with medical bills. This vehicle that they were going to create so that he could drive. It's trash.
So, and here's what I'll say.
And they just medicate already broken people. My dad had a stroke and a heart attack and a seizure. When he was in the hospital, the doctor looked at my mom and said, "It is a miracle that he's alive," because they had his list of medications that the VA put him on. And they're like, why would anyone do this? Why would you put this medication? Because they do not care. And that is the
meds
issue.
When I left the Army.
Oh, yeah, see?
12 meds.
They push toxins into you, and when you leave, you did this is what it is. This is ultimately what it is. I hate to compare it to being a prostitute, but it's like you got paid to do your job. Now get the fuck out.
Yep. Oh, 100%.
They don't care about your mental health. They don't care about your family. You did what you needed to do. We're done with you. We're wiping our hands clean of you. And that is disgusting.
Yep. 100% is exactly what it is. And here's what I'll tap on, right? Is we recognized after Vietnam, you know what I mean? And they learned after Vietnam that it is easier to thank everybody for their service and do all those different things, right? And it's cheaper to, put these people on a pedestal, if you will, than actually do anything about it.
They don't even give military discounts anymore like they used to. It means nothing. It used to mean something. And I know some people are like, that's such a silly thing to complain about. No, it's not. It's a sacrifice, not only for the person that enlisted in the military, but the family members. Yeah. And your measly 10% is an insult, because I know ambassadors for clothing lines, food companies, etc., that get 25%. More than that. Exactly. I'm like, this is someone that literally could have died or did die, and their family is still dealing with the trauma. And you either don't do military discount or you give them 10%.
Yeah. And there's a ton of major corporations out there that, like, it's sad. It is very, very sad.
I also think it's sad, and this is, again, you opened up a can of worms for me. This is a hot topic for me. This is one thing I'm so fucking passionate about. I keep saying the F-bomb, and I've been doing good, so I apologize. But I think it's pretty disgusting in our society that we idolize celebrities and people that do sports. A man wearing a helmet that serves our country should be paid more than someone that throws a fucking ball around or takes their clothes off or isn't a movie. I'm sorry. I said it. I don't care for all the Swiftie fans out there. She's a demonic elitist. She should not be getting that much money.
Agreed.
The men and women that serve this country should be the highest paying individuals in our country.
Well, look back to history, right? And this is something that we
People don't read.
So yeah, well, good point. Yeah, that was one of my biggest complaints. Like, do you even read?
No.
The warrior class and the warrior culture, right, used to always be the highest echelon and the highest honors, right? It was never, the low class. It wasn't. If you made it to that pinnacle and you were considered a warrior, you were the top of everything. And it's become now, and I don't know if it's, because everybody's so fucking sensitive and pussified across the world or not, but like, when did it become a thing to where the warrior class isn't looked at as what they are? Don't get me wrong. Not good people. We're not. That's okay.
You're kind of trained not to be, though. That's the whole point. You can't be, well, one, let's be honest. We truly aren't good beings. If we were good, we wouldn't need Christ. But you can't do the job that you are needed to do and have a conscience. Let's be honest.
Yep.
Can the majority of people go out and shoot a child that has a gun pointed at them? Probably not. That's why I don't think women should be in the front line. We can't separate emotional. That's a whole other topic. But to your point, they can't. Like, you're not good people.
And that's okay, right? Like once you learn to accept that and understand it, right? And you learn to open and close those doors when they're necessary, and when they're not, you close them. You know what I mean? Like
but it's hard to do that.
It is very hard to do that. It took a hell of a lot of intense outpatient therapy to figure that out.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like it's something that, you know, we put everybody on a pedestal and do these certain things all the time when they don't deserve it, man. Like I don't get it.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like, but yet at the same sense too, don't idolize it. You know, and that's it's a double-sided sword. It's just like paying people in nonprofits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just like doing certain things. Like, there's a back and forth on it.
There is. Like, I respect anyone that serves in our military. I truly do. We are the only country where their citizens volunteer to do this and they're not required. That's huge. Okay. People don't realize that, by the way. Little education for y'all. Okay.
Yeah.
So I love that. But like you just stated so beautifully, we're idolizing people. And I don't know where we went wrong in society because we see it with celebrities. Maybe we're desensitized to that. I think maybe movies, you know, we have all these fun action military movies. Maybe that's done something. Maybe Hollywood has somehow just created this narrative. But I also think it's because everyone's getting a trophy. Everyone's getting a sticker, you know, when they get out of the military. And I'm like, but what did they actually do that is so like, okay, I'm sorry. Do you know how many people served in the military and never saw a award that sit on a desk? And you're going to give them an award for what? And I'm not discrediting the fact that you joined the military, but that right there, I think is why so many people are frustrated. And they don't take it seriously.
A lot of people don't understand that about the military as well, too, right? Like, and then, all right, so there's 2 points to this, right? So one, right, like you're in the military. Every job in the military is different. Not everybody who's in the military goes out and fights and is in war, right?
Thank God.
That's not how it works, right? And everybody also has a completely like different view of what special operations is as well, too. It's not what you think it is. All right. Like, don't get me wrong. Certain entities have to do certain things. They're trained to do those certain things. Right. But there's also accountants. There is
HR.
Logistics. There's HR. There's everything that you would need in a regular business. There is in the military. And it's just at a much larger scale because it is the biggest business and also one of the most profitable businesses in our country. I hate to break to everybody. Foreign military sales makes billions of dollars annually, right? Like, it's a thing. The biggest arms dealer in our country is the U.S. government. Shocker.
I know.
Right? And, you know, I don't know.
That's also why they don't want their civilians to have as many firearms, if not more. We're the only country where their civilians have more weapons than the U.S. military. But
and that's one of the biggest deterrents ever. You know what I mean? Like
they can't control us.
Yeah. It is the biggest deterrent for invasion. Yeah, right. Gosh, we're gonna be on this forever. We're doing 2 episodes now.
I know.
So, yeah. No, I mean and there's so much to that though, right? So not everybody actually goes in and fights in combat, right? So that's one thing that people need to understand. And then 2, right, like the people in the military serving and doing those things, even if you're in the job that's there to do that, doesn't mean you're always going to get tested. But that's also a form of trauma for those people as well. And that's a big reason why so many people after leaving the military lie about their service. Because
so many, like it's I don't want to interrupt, but I met a man at Nebraska Furniture Mart. My stepdad was with me, and my stepdad, that's a whole other topic, but he is the real deal. And he bragged, and my dad just kept questioning. I'm like, wait, where were you stationed? Wait, what was your MOS? And you could tell that this guy was sweating. He didn't even finish boot camp.
Yep.
But he said he was a Marine. He listed all of his accomplishments.
Yep.
My dad made one phone call. He was
Yep.
like, this is what pisses me off. And this is also why my dad hates telling people he's in the military. He hates being told, thank you for your service. And he hates that because it's an ego thing. So he'll meet a guy that's like, oh, well, I did this, this, and this. Well, my dad knows he's full of shit.
Yeah.
But my dad who truly is a trained killer, doesn't want to talk about it because people that have actually had to do stuff, they don't brag about it.
Yeah.
They have nightmares about it.
Yep.
They want to take their life because they hate what they had to do. Meanwhile, people are out here lying. Sorry, did not mean to interrupt. That's another thing that pisses me off.
You know what I mean? And that's something to talk about, right? Like,
I hate liars. I hate them.
Yeah. But that's a form of trauma as well too, because so many of these guys and girls now, right? Like, but they were trained for so long to go do that job, and they never got the chance. Look at all the folks coming out of Desert Storm. And this is something too, you know, like, be proud of what you did.
Yes.
Right? Like, be proud of what you did, because, and it doesn't matter if, you know, and y'all will hear this in the podcast with Jeremiah and I, because we went on a tangent, but you know what I mean? Like, be proud of what you did, because it doesn't matter if you're a cook. It doesn't matter if you're a truck driver. It doesn't matter if you're S1. It doesn't matter. You still sacrificed, and you still trained to do something, and you served your country.
Exactly.
How many people can say that?
They can't. That's why I think it's so crucial that people realize that we volunteer. Our military, it's all 100% volunteer. That right now, the average American, first off, the majority of Americans can't even get through boot camp with how obese they are and their health issues. That I would be so proud of myself if I accomplished boot camp first off.
Yep.
Okay. But again, it's society, it's social media. We create this false narrative that if you don't have this accomplished, or by the time you're this, or if you don't do this, then you're inadequate and you're not successful. That's not true. Yep. I was taught and raised, whether you're a janitor, whether you work at Burger King, McDonald's, you're a librarian, be proud of what you do. Keep your shoulders back. You have a job. You can provide for your family. That is amazing.
Yep. And be humble.
Yes. Oh, God. Say it again.
So, right? Like, just be humble. Right? Like,
Kendra
literally
Lamar says it the best.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, right? Like, so on my business cards and on all my stuff, right? Like, I think it's even in my signature block. I put on there, you know, like, Chief Executive Officer / janitor.
I love it.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's not, and it's a joke, right? Like, but it's also, but it's not, right? Like, because it doesn't matter who you are, what your title is, what you're doing. You're not better than anybody else. It doesn't matter. You're not. I go into the offices, and if I see something that needs to be cleaned up, I go do it.
Yeah.
You come into my office, you'll catch me sweeping the floors. You'll catch me doing shit like that. And then everybody's looking at me like, what are you doing? Like,
you're the CEO, you shouldn't do this. You're like,
right.
That's why I'm doing it.
Right. Because it needed to get done. I know what you all are working on right now, and I need you to focus on that. Right? I had some white space, or I came in early, or I did this, whatever. And hey, this needs to get cleaned up. This needs to get done. Right? Oh, we got to go get the fridge restocked. Cool. I put it in order. Right? They deliver it now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm lazy sometimes. So, you know what I mean? Like, there are certain things like that, though. But like, people just stop getting so wrapped up in your title. Stop getting so wrapped up in everything else, right? Like, and stop making up what you did and what you do. It's the same thing as being you. Oh, I'm a CEO, but I don't raise capital. You know what I mean? Like, grow the fuck up, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you are what you are, right? Like, but then don't come at me too, right? Of like, oh, well, I'm just the business owner, or I'm just an infantryman, or I'm just a cook. No, dude, fuck that. You're a business owner.
Yeah.
You were an infantryman. You were a cook, and you did this, and you served for this time to this time.
I was going to say, I'm sorry, but if the military didn't have any cooks, they would starve. So, I mean, well, and I think it goes back to, again, just society as a whole. I think this is what happens. And it's very terrible in America, but when our identity is found in worldly possessions or titles, that you tend to see issues like this.
Yeah.
But when your identity is found in something that is truly worth it, in my opinion, my identity is found in Christ. So I don't care how much money I make. I don't care about the opinions of others. My identity is firm in that foundation. So I know when I die, all these worldly possessions, the titles, the education, it doesn't matter. We're all going to die one day.
Yeah.
So again, back to being humble, it's so important because it doesn't matter. Your legacy, let's be honest, no one's going to remember you 10, 15 years from now. You know, they have the Hall of Fame in sports. People don't care. They really don't care.
I've never looked at it.
If you are alive when your idol is alive, cool. But guess what? You're both going to die, and then there's going to be a new Hall of Fame. No one cares. They're going to remember how you treated them.
Yep.
And what good you brought into the world. That's it.
Yeah.
Or they're going to remember you as a liar because you have an ego.
Shots fired. Good luck, Tim.
There's so many.
Yeah, and there's a ton of them, right? He's the highlight reel right now. You know what I mean? And
yeah, which also pisses me off though, because people that are getting mad at Tim, I'm like, so then why are you ignoring all these other people that have been doing this for years? Why is it just Tim? And it's because he's got a larger platform. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but we're the idiots that give these people platforms. You're the ones that idolize them. So you can't be mad. Right. You truly can't. You allowed this to happen.
And so, and this is something that, you know, I get into as well too, is taking credit for things and going back to it. It goes back to being humble, right? And understanding what servant leadership is, right? And anybody that is a true servant leader isn't out here taking credit for all of this, you know, crazy stuff, right? Like it took me so long to get this podcast off and running because I felt uncomfortable doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't like talking about me. Yeah. I like talking about issues. I like, you know, giving a perspective of things. I don't know if I'm good or bad at it. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, y'all tell me. But, you know, it goes back to how do we sit here and actually bring up real issues and get that information out of the world to allow people to formulate their own opinions on things.
Yep.
And stop, you know, doing that. But I really struggled with it because I'm like, dude, like this just isn't me getting out here and doing this, right? Like I'm just a dude, right? Like I'm just some guy who, you know, I was in the Army and then, you know, I ended up out of the Army and then I started a business and now I'm figuring that shit out. Now, okay, well now I'm starting this other business and, you know, I work in this nonprofit and I do this, right? But like it's not about me. Like, if you look at everything that we do, true servant leaders, right? Like, it's not about us. It isn't. And anything that my company does well, that was due to somebody else doing it. I promise you I didn't do it. Right? Like, I didn't do it. You know what I mean? Like, it was because, you know, I may have set the groundwork for it. I may have gotten, you know, the contract into the right hands. I may have done those things, but I didn't get that work done. That wasn't me. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't do anything in the Army that somebody else wasn't already doing or anything like that, right? I didn't do anything in the nonprofit space that somebody else couldn't have done.
Right.
But do you have the balls to stand up and say it and do it, right? And call the people out?
That's the difference. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm tired of nonprofits raising money to raise awareness.
Kill myself.
Right?
Mark, say it.
Yep, I did not do this. So, you know, and it's one of those things though, like there's so many things out there that are just, they're collecting and taking all this money You know
Like
what I mean?
Feed
And
America is another one.
yeah, yep.
Sorry.
I mean, look at all the crap that's coming out with, you know, USA. You know what I mean? Like, now, here's what I'll riddle y'all real quick, right? I understand that a lot of the USAID money is pulled for other operations and it's written under as other expenses. We all know that,
Yeah,
right?
we're not idiots.
We didn't send $12 billion in condoms to Gaza.
The fact that people believe that, and I'll give Elon kudos. He's like, oh, my bad.
Yeah. Right?
But the fact that people believe that is what's scary. Like,
yeah.
These people get to vote, by the way. So.
Yeah. You know, pick up a book. Yeah, pick up a book. You know what I mean? Like, understand.
People can't read, though. The literacy rate is...
Oh, my God. It's dramatically plummeting.
Yeah.
Dramatically
I love when,
plummeting.
Liberals try and have some sort of debate with me on social media.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm so sorry. I do not argue with people who have terrible punctuation and don't even know proper grammar. So when you're at the point that you can understand governmental policies, then we can speak, but you can't even spell the difference between there, they are, the twos. You're going to sit here and talk to me about policies.
Right. And have you actually read any of the policies?
No. Can you tell me the different parliaments of government? Can you tell me who the current presidents have been? Yeah. Probably not.
Right. List the last 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so many people are like, it's like, oh, you didn't learn it on TikTok? Oh, darn.
Oh, I love those videos of, have you seen him on TikTok? I can't remember his name, but he'll go around and he'll be like, when is America's birthday? Like on a Tuesday? When did we get our like independent, like, no. The question was, when did America gain, we're going to have to cut this out because I can't remember what it was, but there was a question that he purposely worded it to sound dumb. Yeah. And they still couldn't answer. And another one was, they were like, how many months are in a year?
Are you serious?
Mark. Someone said 36.
36 months.
And then someone was
you
like,
are 100% right.
Someone said like 12 weeks. And he goes, no, I asked a month. I don't know, like, how many weeks are in a month? I was like, these people are going to get online and talk to me about foreign policies and about government funding, about topics that they know nothing about because TikTok.
Yes. So in social media is a huge downfall in that one of the
everyone gets a platform.
Yeah. Well, and it brought up a couple points too. Something I actually used to ask in like promotion boards and different things in the military was, tell me the first stanza of your oath to enlistment.
Ooh.
Right? So, and you would be amazed because, and anybody that goes into a military board, right, is you prepare for it. You have a general idea of the questions. They ask about history. They ask about all this other stuff, right? And then like obviously like job specific and situation. Yeah. And it is a good thing preparing you to stand in front of your, seniors and be able to speak effectively and do those certain things. And you have to be in your full dress uniform and all that different stuff, right? So, but that was always one of my main questions because so many soldiers don't know. And it's like, okay, well, if you don't know why you're here, you're not a leader.
No.
And you can go back out and you can try again next month. Right?
But that's kind of sad.
And it is. But now that's just kind of like, the niche to what I'm getting to say is that so many people don't even know what's happened in this country because we're trying to delete our history. We're deleting our history of this country. Right. And we're doing it and they don't understand it. Right. And I'm about to open up a can of worms and we're going to catch some heat. I'm sorry. Right. So let's go back to the Civil War real quick.
Oh, gosh. Do you know people don't even know what that is?
Yeah. Tracking.
Yeah.
The Civil War was not fought over slavery. It wasn't. It was fought over economics and state rights. Okay. The reason the 16th Amendment came out, right, was so that the British, who is no longer a slave trading nation, would not aid the Confederacy.
It's in history books.
It's in the history books, but it's deleted from most of the school history books, right? And that is the truth of what it was, right? And had the the British been with and aided the Confederacy, right, the war would have been very differently. However, President Lincoln put that amendment in, and he abolished slavery. He absolutely did.
But that
right?
wasn't, yeah.
But that's not what the war was fought over. It was fought over economics and state rights and taxation. That's what it was fought over. It's what every war is fought over.
Money, greed, corruption.
Is over economics.
Yes.
Like, I don't get it. Now, right, let's talk about the renaming of military bases, right?
That's a hot topic.
Oh, it's a super hot topic,
Yeah.
right? Do you know why the bases were named after Confederate generals?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Fill me in.
So they were named after Confederate generals because when we tried to unify the nation again, they were still showing honor to those generals who fought in the war. At the end of the day, they're still American generals.
Right.
They were still phenomenal leaders, and they were from those states. That's where they were at, right? Like General Bragg, he did a lot of things, like Stonewall Jackson, right? Like everybody still knows Stonewall Jackson's name, right?
If you
like
don't, that's scary.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like they were named after that to help unify the country afterwards, because there was a literal division in the country, right? They were attempting to unify it. Those bases were named to unify the nation, and we're taking them down because you don't like the narrative that they were slave traders and they were all these other things.
But here's the thing, and that's another topic. If you actually studied slavery, everyone at some point, even first off, it began with in Africa, kings, royalty selling their own people. And also slavery wasn't just blacks. Let's stop that right now, that narrative. Slavery existed in every part of the world, every realm, okay?
Yes.
So the slave
and still
trade,
exists today.
Human trafficking is the number one issue in our world. It still exists today. It is also the most profitable, which is disgusting. They make more money than Google, Nike, Amazon.
Yep.
And it's
Microsoft.
the worst in the United States. Yeah, but that's like a whole nother topic. But no, and so I always tell people, like, you're getting upset about something about slavery when your own people sold your ancestors. And also it wasn't just a black issue. It was just a humanity issue.
It was a humanity issue.
There are blacks that owned slaves, first off. Let's talk about that in the United States. And then you're getting mad. Most of the slaves that worked for farmers that were, I would say, faith-based good farmers, they actually got the land when their owner passed away. They would inherit that. So you're getting mad about something that you are not knowledgeable whatsoever.
Right.
And then to what you just said, people getting mad about like renaming statues or trying to delete history. If you delete history and you don't learn from the past, you're going to repeat.
There it is, right? If we're not learning from it, you know what I mean? We're not going to do anything different.
Yeah.
Right? Don't get me wrong. Is slavery wrong? Yeah. Yeah, it
but
is.
It wasn't just a black and white issue.
No.
So let's...
It go back to the Holocaust.
I was just about to say, AK,
right?
Hitler. Look at the Irish. People forget about the Irish.
Yeah. Look at
I ask about that. People are like, what are you talking about? I'm like, dear Jesus.
People don't know too, right? Like during World War II, we had camps here in the United States for the Japanese. We had concentration camps.
Everyone
work
did.
camps.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're no different than anybody else. Take accountability.
Yeah.
Right? Like, take accountability for the actions. People, if you're not educating yourself and you're not learning from history, you're failing.
Yep. But people want to change history to fit their narrative, which is dangerous.
Right.
Very dangerous.
And that's very dangerous. You know what I mean? And that's what it rolls into. Right? And like, by no means am I racist. I'm not. Like, I'm not. Right? If you're ignorant, I'm going to tell you you're ignorant. If you're, abundantly clear about a stance on certain things, I'm willing to listen to your position And we can go back and forth on it as long as you can come from an educated point of it, right? Police training, it needs to be better.
1,000%.
It needs to be better.
You can
Stereotyping
be
certain
and
things.
still want better training.
Yeah. And
the vetting
it's
system
on
is terrible.
All of it. It is.
Yeah.
100%. And
but same with doctors. I can argue that because I worked in healthcare for so long. I know people that should not have their license. There's going to be bad apples in every industry.
Absolutely.
That's why I love that you're getting rid of DEI, because people don't realize you shouldn't be hired just because of the way you look. You need to be hired for your qualifications and are you the right person for the job? Plain and simple. If you think that is me being racist, then I guess I'm racist, but I can't be racist because I'm mixed. And last time I checked, we all bleed red. So y'all can shut the F up with that. Okay? Thank you. And we all are mixed from the same DNA anyway. So thank you, Jesus.
You know what I mean? Like, and so many people just get so hung up on the narrative, right? And whether it's social media, it's the movie industry, it's
our own damn fault. We allowed it to happen.
We allow it, and we allow us to understand and just believe whatever is out there. Nobody's questioning the narrative anymore.
That's why I miss true journalism. I remember in high school when I think it was like a current events course that I took, and we had to have 4 different sources that could back up whatever it is that we were discussing at that time, the topic.
Peer-reviewed sources, by the way.
Exactly. You had to do that when you wrote essays in college.
Yeah.
Now the source will literally say Google, TikTok.
Right. No. Like,
that's not a legitimate source.
No, it's not. Right? Like Wikipedia.
White House press secretary journalists are getting their information from a TikToker and stating that is actual facts.
Yeah.
That's scary.
It is scary. You know what I mean? And journalism used to be out there to really go and show too the failures. It's a check and balance, right? Like everybody talks about, oh, we've got these rights to do things. We have the, right to free press, right to freedom of speech, all those things, right? You're absolutely right. You do have those rights, and they're there as a check and balance to look at it. But when you weaponize it against the people, you're failing the masses. And
it should be for the people.
Like, it's for the people. It's not for the 1%. It's not, you know what I mean? And it's so many people are just blinded to it at this point. It's mind blowing.
And I'm a firm believer, just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean you should do it.
Yeah.
So
it's funny. Actually, I have a saying for that. It's just because you can do something doesn't mean you should, right? Like, just because I can deadlift, 505 pounds doesn't mean I should. I got a broke fucking back. You know what I mean?
Just because you can pew someone doesn't mean you should. Or just because you can murder your child in the womb doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. Like,
that's a whole nother topic.
Right? Be a good person. Be a good human.
And it's hard for people to do that, and I get it. And again, the sad truth is people are not inherently good. We are not good. If we were good, there would be no evil. We wouldn't need religion. I'm not even talking just about Jesus. There's so many other religions out there. If we were good people, why is it that our moral compass was founded off of religion? Because inherently when we're born, we don't know the difference between wrong and right. That is instilled in us.
Correct.
But I do think one thing we can all agree on is, if you're not demonic, there is something inside of you that strives to be a good person. What is going on? There's fireworks.
Apparently there's a really good comment, right? What? iPhones.
Thank you. Jesus is like, let's go.
Right.
But it's true. We're not good people. And so that's where I believe, trying to kind of do a full circle moment, people that say they don't believe in God, atheists, make me laugh, because I'm like, so then where does your moral compass come from? What's the point of being good then? Because those are instilled through the teachings of Jesus Christ, the Bible. So there's a reason that we're called to be good, and there's a reason why at least you and I, Mark, want to see change in the world, because we want to see more good. We want people to using their platforms for good. But we didn't just make these rules up. There's fundamental teachings, there's books, there's religion for us to look back on and see, like, hey, history shows that if you don't have some form of a higher power to look to, people fail. There's murder, there's corruption, there's sin.
Yeah.
So,
and I think too, and maybe this is just me being a bit of a cynic, right? But I think a person can be good. I think people are bad. And hear me out with this one, right?
I think they can have good in them.
Yes. So,
but we're not born good.
An individual person by themselves is going to make the right choices, and they're going to be good. When they allow themselves to be within the masses, and they allow themselves to be, I don't want to say corrupted, because it's not the right way of saying it, but it's
maybe like influenced.
Yeah, I would say influenced, or they become a product of their environment. Yeah. Right? Instead of making your environment a product of you and surrounding yourself with your values. And again, right, whether it's a business, whether it's your personal life, whether it's any of that, you have to set your left and right limits. Right? Like, and don't get me wrong, I agree with you that is instilled in us as a young age, and it is through religion, it is through, just standard ethics and everything else that we follow off our premise. But you allow yourself to be influenced by your environment and by the people you surround yourself with, to where you cross those boundaries regularly. And the more you cross them, the more those boundaries are going to change. And I can kind of speak on this from the military and veteran perspective, right? Is societal normalcy. And I talk about it a lot, right? What's normal here in society is not normal everywhere. It's not.
Correct.
So when you live outside of that societal normalcy for a period of time, and you do it more and more and more and more, your view of what is normal is changed.
Yeah.
I view things very, very differently, right? You're never going to hear me yell. You're never going to hear me get super excited. I don't. It's just, I don't have a need to, right? Yeah. Like I don't get fired up about shit. You know what I mean? So, but that's because I've lived out those societal norms for so long, and it's changed my viewpoints on things. Excuse me, that coffee's coming back to, like societal normalcy. Is like, people need to understand that, all of that is flexible. And if you allow that to, change who you are and what you want to do, and you allow that to impact you, right? Like it's going to change your outlook on everything. And it's going to cause problems in your life. Plain and simple. So,
yeah.
We have to understand and look at it from a perspective of, this is who I am and what I want to stand for, and how I'm going to make those changes, and how I'm going to, effectively live my life, and what I'm going to put back into the world.
And I think that's so true. I think a lot of people need to take the time, not because you were raised a certain way. Like, one thing I respect about my mom never pushed my relationship with Jesus or my political views on me. What she did was she gave me facts. She's like, this is why I believe this. Here's A, B, C, D. I'm going to let you form an opinion. And that shaped who I am today.
Yep.
Because of that, I am truly faithful in my relationship with God, but I am confident enough to have a debate with anyone because I'm knowledgeable about my faith, my political stance. I feel confident in who I am. If you just go, like you said, if you just go with the flow and off the norm, you're going to be a weak-minded individual. If your roots aren't planted in something, you're a weak individual who's going to cower to everything. I think, what was it, Mark Twain, stand for something or fall for anything?
Yep.
It's true.
Yeah.
So I think it goes back to where your identity stands. Is your identity found in your title and your job and your worldly possessions? What you want to leave behind? What do you want to be remembered for in that brief amount of time that people will still remember you, right? I want to be known as someone that always gave the shirt off my back. That even if I didn't agree with you politically, religiously, I was kind to you. I want people to be like, she was a loving human being and she made me laugh and she's the funniest person I've ever met. which is true. That's how I want to be remembered.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
And I have the same exact viewpoint that goes out and does that as well too, right? Like, I don't want to be remembered for being a soldier. I don't want to be remembered for being a fucking CEO. That's not what I care about, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously I care about it. I'm passionate about my company. I'm passionate about being...
That's just a part of who you are. That's
Exactly.
not you. That's not all of your identity.
It's not my identity.
People get so caught up, especially in the military.
Yeah.
You nailed it when we first started talking. That's like, stop living in the past. You accomplished something. Great. Yep. Move on.
Yeah.
Move on. Your identity. Ben Carson is the perfect example of your past does not identify or who you currently are. You know what I mean? Your past does not define who you currently are.
Yep.
Your situations do not determine where you'll be in the future either.
Exactly.
You can change that narrative if you want to.
But you got to put in the work.
You have to, but some people don't want to. They like to stay stagnant, and I get that.
And they want the immediate gratification, right? Like
the instant high, which does not last, and then you're going to feel empty.
It's quick dopamine hits don't work, guys. I hate to break it to y'all, right? It's called a stirb. And when you do that, it's actually like a self-destructive mentality. And again, that's why there's such a huge depression issue now. That's why there's such a huge anxiety issue now. That's why there's all these things, because, you know, you built your identity around a self-destructive, you know, mentality of disturbing to get those initial highs. And now you've crossed so many ethical lines within yourself and within what you do. You don't know who you are anymore. And anybody that tells you, I don't know who I am, that's why. And I can say that because I was that person at one point.
But that's why your testimony is beautiful, and so many people can learn from you. You're more relatable than the Tim Kennedys of the world that try and paint a specific picture. And I'm not trying to dog on him. He's done good, but I'm just saying there are a lot of people like him and other politicians. Like, we want real, raw truth. I want someone to be like, look, I lost who I was. This was so important. This was a very important part of my life. When I got out, I didn't feel like I was important. I didn't know where to go. I couldn't even talk to my wife or my spouse, etc. I didn't like my kids. I was lost. Yeah. That is real rawness that people need to hear, because most people can relate to that.
100%. You know what I mean? And there's a line between it as well too, right? Yeah. You also don't have to share your entire life story with the world.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, people that overshare. Listen, some people have ADHD, they can't help it. I get it. But sometimes it's okay. Have that habit too on the first date. But less is more, essentially. Less is more. And I also think sometimes if you get so caught up in your story, if you're truly trying to help someone, they're like, okay, hold on. Are we talking about me or you? Like, what's going on here? So it's okay to give a little, background on yourself. But again, if you get caught up in it, it's just an example that it's still trying to identify you in some sort of way. Like, stop living in the past.
Right.
So I've struggled with it. I used to be young and cool and hip, and now I'm not. It's fine. Trying to figure out what to do now.
Were you waiting for me to come in and say, oh, no?
I'm waiting for your son to say something, like, is your son alive, by the way? Because he's been quiet.
No, he's napping, which is actually really great. So,
awesome.
He's napping. So he's smiling right now. He hears us talking about him. So, yeah, he's a sweet boy. He's a sweet boy. So, oh, look, see, there it goes again.
Okay, this is
your phone is on it today.
It is. Is it me?
Like,
I the
clearly.
problem?
Yep. Common denominator. I think people really do get into oversharing and doing that a lot. And I think that becomes a lot of the issues as well, too, is that you feel it's necessary to tell everybody what's going on and what's the problem and all this other stuff. And it's a victim mentality.
Yep.
Right? Like, and if you look at yourself as a victim constantly and that, things just happen to you, you're the problem.
But some people want that. I hate to say it.
They do.
But there are just some people that want that attention. They want the victim mindset. You see it constantly in this younger generation.
Yeah.
The poor me, I'm oppressed, etc. Yet you are living in the best country in the world.
Yeah.
We have our flaws, but I'm like, you are actually the most privileged individual.
100%.
The fact that you get to even say you're impressed is amazing.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's something too, like, and I talk about my boys quite a bit, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, like, my number one thing that I do is I'm a dad.
yeah,
Like,
I love that.
and that's what I am. Like, my kids will always come first. I'm not missing, a lacrosse game or a lacrosse practice or, any of my first moments, with Leo for something for work. I'm not going to do it.
Good.
Sorry.
You shouldn't.
And I don't expect my employees to do it either. Right? Like, that's not your priority.
No.
It's not
some
your
people's,
identity.
which is sad.
But that's because they make it their identity.
Exactly. It literally goes back to that.
Yep. And if that's your only thing that you give to the world and that's your identity, you're not teaching those boys or daughters how to be a good human.
No.
And at the end of the day,
you usually live a very depressed life.
Yep.
Statistically, you do.
Yep.
You'll be alone because your wife will probably leave you. The divorce rate in America is so high because of that. Because people prioritize everything but their family.
Been there, done that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? No, Jordan, honestly, like, thank you for coming on the show and doing this. We hit a ton of topics and different things like that. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Every conversation
talk
we end
all
up
day.
at. Yeah, every conversation we can end up at. We've been on here for 2 hours. You know what I mean? Like, and we could probably sit on here for another 2 hours just bullshitting about stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. No, honestly, like, I think it's really, really great having you on. And I'd love to get you on again too, because we can literally sit here and debate all this stuff. And go back and forth, because I think, you provide such an amazing perspective to so many things. And I love it.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for saying that. That means a lot.
Yeah. No, I
You're
absolutely.
going to make me cry.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
That's actually just my allergies. But just so happy to be here, Mark.
I'm actually going to edit that into the front.
Do it.
So, but no, like, for real though, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate
Absolutely.
you getting
It's my
on
pleasure.
and hanging out with me for the morning, and we get to go through and do it.
Only for you, Mark.
Thanks.
Only for you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Not many people that only do things for just me, so thanks.
Well, you're a great person, and I love what you're doing, and I love what you stand for. So,
Well, you want to do a quick shout out real quick of just where people can find your stuff at, and then where we'll hang the episodes and all that stuff too.
sure. Hopefully, my phone doesn't die. So if it does,
You got it.
I'm
Just
sorry.
be
Okay.
super quick.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Yes, you guys can follow me on Instagram. It's the Jordan Elizabeth. I'm pretty boring. I don't really have any other social media. So
There it is.
there we go.
Awesome.